newer players that are brand new to it probably will sit in one of the wards next to the bed, and they will open a door randomly and peek you through hallways that you wouldn't even think would exist. But I do agree with what you're saying completely.
Do you know what? Just to sort of piggyback off what you just said, then I find playing newer players or more inexperienced players harder sometimes than playing more experienced players, because it's the unknown.
Because they do random shit. That's what it is. They do random shit.
They literally just come out of the toilet that they've been sitting in the entire game and just wipe you completely.
What's up, guys? My name is Deployable Lover, and welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, is a little bit of a different video. I'm sat down with a good friend of mine and a major personality within the Zero Hour community. I'm here with Jambo, and we're going to talk all things Zero Hour. Now, we're going to try and make this a little bit more of a podcast style, and obviously if it's well received, then potentially you might see it pop up on the regular a little bit more. But either way, I think that's enough of me. Hand it over to you, man. How you doing?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. I'm excited. I'm excited about doing something like this.
Nervous?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no one's ever sort of got me on the spot before and asked me a few bits and pieces about something that I should know a lot about, but we'll see.
No, I mean, to be fair, mate, I think it's for a lot of people, it's something they don't typically see. I know when I've been searching, I'm fairly new to the Zero Hour community, but for me personally, when scouring through stuff, all you see on YouTube these days is tips about this, and this comes directly from myself as well. I make a lot of videos like that, and it's gameplay, but I don't think anyone really touches on the core of Zero Hour, the community, the players, and I don't know what your opinion's like on that, but I think this is something that needs to be explored a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. There's certainly not a lot of exposure around this game, and I think it needs to have a lot more exposure. Like the videos which you're putting out are certainly helping within the community, and it's what it needs. I just think because it's such a small community and whether or not people have got the actual knowledge to put out that certain content it's obviously a different story. But I think something like this will be very, very good. For new and veteran players to look at and sort of like meld over and decide whether or not it's for them, really, to be honest. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about. I mean, at the end of the day, although the limited time I've spent in this game, and I know you're the same, although you've spent a lot longer than I have in the game, I'm very passionate about this game's future and the present, to be honest. But before we delve into all that sort of stuff, because we are going to get into that, but do you just want to give yourself a brief introduction to those who don't know who you are? I appreciate a lot of you guys watching will already know, but Jambo, who are you and what do you do within Zero Hour?
Well, yeah, I'm Jambo. I'm 36 years old, and I'm a Zero Hour player who's got about 800 plus hours in the game now. I'm part of Team Hacks, which is a competitive team within the Zero Hour community. And I play the shotgun like nobody else does. At least that's what I've been told. So it's So Zero Hour is my main game, and it's the only game that I play at the moment. So it's that's me pretty much.
But, and sorry, carry on, man. You go for it.
No, I was just saying, I mean, obviously I'm 36 years old, and as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, whoever's watching this, I think I'm actually the oldest competitive player who plays Zero Hour at the moment. I've been a gamer all my life, and I get it from my dad, who actually still games as well now, and he was 60 the other week. It started from a young age, with the old Spectrum ZXs, Atari consoles and that, and then eventually working up to getting sort of a PC. With Windows 95 on there, and playing the old.
Oh, they don't make them like that anymore.
No,
they don't make them like that anymore. I was going to say actually, because apart from we're talking way back to what you were brought up on, but before Zero Hour existed to you, what did you used to play? What were you into, and what sort of ticked your box?
Well, it depends how far back you want to go. I mean, to me, nothing scratched the itch, for me, for many, many years. I'm an old Rainbow Six player. And when I say old Rainbow Six player, people say, oh, what, Vegas? For, that guy? No. We're going back to the early 2000s when I used to play Rogue Spear. Used to play Raven Shield, then moving on to like SWAT 3 and SWAT 4, Delta Force. Those games were the tactical shooters back in that genre, which we don't seem to have nowadays. And it's more of a niche sort of market. So when Zero Hour turned up, I was like, whoa, hold on a minute, this is something which I really, really enjoyed back in the day. Let me see if this is any good. Because back then I used to play competitively at Rainbow Six. I used to have a team going, and nothing has ever sort of come along that has sort of like caught my attention quite like this. I mean, I bought this for half the price, that it is, because it was on sale at the time, and I bought it for less than £5. Less than
That's a
£5.
steal, isn't it, for what it is? Definitely.
800 hours, mate, on this game. Less
Yeah, I
than
mean, you
five
don't
five
you
quid.
don't get that out of most conventional games nowadays for a £40 price tag, do you, or a little bit more. I mean, aside from the price, like, what would you say sort of drew you to Zero Hour? Like, how did you find out about it or what it was?
Uh, well, as I said, I mean, I got bored with the current state of gaming. To be totally honest with you, mate, there was only so many battle royales you could play. The next COD was exactly the same as the old COD, but it was different skins. The same with Battlefield as well. You know, you've probably had the same sort of scenario. You've sat there and you've looked through the Steam catalog, the library, trying to find that
Yeah,
next game that's going to grab your attention.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember typing in the tags, tactical shooter, like FPS or whatever, and this popped up. And it was just something else. At the time, it was like, well, it's on offer, less than £5. So for the price of a cup of coffee and a piece of cake, I might as well give it a go, and see what happens with it. I mean, what drew me to it was its simplicity, mate. To be honest, the simplicity is what made it for me. Games nowadays are trying too hard to come up with the next best thing, where you don't actually need to do any of that. You just keep it simple.
yeah,
There is no elements in Zero Hour which is complex. It's either a 5v5, I shoot you, kill your team, or I defuse a bomb, or get that with a hostage. It's not overthought kill streak rewards and hero shooter abilities where you've got to pick certain operators and to do certain different things. Everyone's in the same boat. You
yeah,
select your
yeah.
weapons and off you go, and that's what keeps me drawn to it, because it's simple. And obviously that comes with me being older. Because I like simple sort of things.
I think as well from what you were saying then, and like just to clarify a few things. I think when you're referring to the game being simple, I take it as the foundation of the game is simple. Now, when you
Mm,
play at your level with the teammates that you play with and the tiers that you play in, that's when the game becomes a lot more complex. Like
yeah.
there is more to it, but I think from what I'm taking from that is the foundation of the game.
Mhm.
Essentially, it's 5v5 hostage bomb defusal. It's as simple as that sort of thing. Is that kind of sort of where you're coming
Yeah,
from? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I didn't mean it to sound like the
No, no,
way
no.
that
It
it did.
doesn't. No.
Like when we're saying it's simple and it's an idiot can play or whatever like that, because that's not the case. When I say it's simple, it's clean.
Yeah.
The graphics are nothing over the top. They are simplistic in the fact is you can tell that this is a house. I can tell that that's an enemy. The graphics are good enough
Hmm.
for games nowadays. They don't need to go over the top and put too much in there. All they've
Yeah.
done is concentrate on the gameplay, which is easy to pick up but hard to master. It's
I
it's,
think
it's,
that's
it's
a
one,
that's a
one of
very
those
good
ones.
statement. I mean, I'm talking. I've only had 40 hours in the game so far, but even then, I've come to realize that this is a game where really you'd understand the fundamentals and the foundations within probably in the first 10 to 15 hours of the game, but to actually get a solid grasp on the meta, so to speak, and how to attack, defend bomb sites, hide hostages correctly, which angles to peek, the list goes on. And like you said, it's kind of quick to get the foundations of it, to master it. I think it's almost an impossible task to some extent. So
Absolutely.
so, I mean, with that in mind, if we part the game aside just for 1 second, and you obviously mentioned at the start of the video you're on a competitive team, Hacks, which we know.
Mhm.
Now, how does the competitive side of Zero Hour look currently? I mean, if we talk about obviously the scope of it, I mean, is there any funding for it? Are there a lot of tournaments? How do you see it as a competitive player?
So, as a competitive player, that is where most of your community comes from within the game. Anybody who's anybody in Zero Hour is part of a competitive team. Anybody in a competitive team knows the other players on the competitive rosters. It's just the way it is. We'll go into public matches and we'll come up against other competitive team players, and they'll be like, "Hi, Jumbo, how are you?" And you'll go back to them and say, "Hi," whoever they are. And there'll be that sort of like respect and you obviously know who you're playing against, and
Yeah,
you need to step it up a little bit in there as well. But when you're talking about sort of like the competitive aspect of the game, no, it's not being funded. It's all being sort of done third party. There's a lot of like players who play the game constantly who are setting up tournaments sort of every couple of weeks, every couple of months, and these tournaments are sometimes a sort of buy-in thing where the teams have to put in a small amount of money, and then it's just a prize pool that accumulates, and then the winner takes it, first, second, first, however it's done.
yeah,
But there have been sort of big tournaments. There's like a tournament which is called the Zero Cup, which is probably the biggest tournament which has happened so far. I know there's been two, but the first one was like a smaller sort of 3v3 tournament, I believe. But this one just gone was a 5v5 one, which I participated in. And I think it was about 20 teams there. So you got 20 teams, competitive players, and at that point, that's when the devs sort of got involved with it. They actually said, during the tournament, said the winner of the tournament will have an in-game cosmetic, a watch of their choice, made for them for their team and put into the game, which they did. They were true to their word. They did that, so they know the competitive side's going on, but
Yeah.
they're not funding it per se, and they're not
No.
sort of involved that much. But I know they watch because they've said they watched, and and
Yeah.
and they are there.
Well, I was going to
But
say is, I mean, how much do the developers get involved? And I mean, you've kind of answered that question as a whole, but is there any plans that perhaps they've mentioned? I don't know how in touch the community is with the devs at the moment as to, not necessarily esports, but certainly the competitive side of Zero Hour. Are they going to have much of an input going forward that you know of?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I know that obviously it's a strong thing for the community to have a competitive side to it, and I know the devs are obviously aware it's going on because I have spoken to a few of them on many occasions about it. However, I think they're more involved in sort of like developing the game
Yeah, yeah.
uh, firstly, rather than sort of getting involved with it. Because as we know, the game's going to change constantly. It's going to change and it's going to get better. It's still in early access, and the only way it can go is up. It can go and get better. But when you talk about sort of these competitive sort of environments now, the other thing which is very, very exciting is there's actually a league being set up. Well, the league is actually already set up, sorry, I should say. And it was basically trial with 4 teams that have been playing in the league, and it's really, really well done. It's casted every week. Ex Playman, who you know quite well, who's a
Yeah, yeah.
very important figure within the Zero community, is the one who casts it. He hosts them. He does all the statistics, and it's like a real sort of like a football game, rugby game, whatever like that. All the players have got their own statistics. There is a leaderboard there, the league board there as well with points accumulating, and it's caught the attention of a lot of other teams as well. We, as my team, Hacks, did not participate in the first season for whatever personal sort of reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
However, we are now going to be competing in the next season, which hopefully should be starting in the next sort of few weeks. I don't know the exact date for that, but I'm sure XPlay will be putting that out. But that's another exciting thing as well that's going to happen, and it just shows you that the community want this game to survive. They want this game to be pushed out of early access and for it to get better and better and get more exposure, because they're sitting there taking the time to get these tournaments up and running, these leagues up and running. And they want the competitive side of it. So yeah.
And this is it. I mean, like if you look on, say for instance, like any sort of Twitch directory, anything, even the YouTube streaming side of things at the moment. I know people are off doing different things. Battlefield's just come out, and there's a lot of other things going on. But considering how small the community actually looks on face value right now, there's a lot going on behind it. And I'm part of a few Discords, Hacks being one of them, and the sheer support that you get from these Discords and the integrity and willingness of the community. Honestly, I don't think I've seen that in many other communities and many other games. I don't know about you and what your thoughts are on that.
So yeah, I mean, I've said this plenty of times, and anyone who sort of tunes into me when I'm streaming or knows me is I will always be the first person to say, in my many years of gaming, and now at the age of 36, I have never been part of a community that this tight and this supportive of everybody who's involved. It's unbelievable. The amount of support and love that people show towards everybody. We go back to talking about the competitive sides of it. I remember when it was being casted, that 5v5 tournament that we played in was 2 days. It was 2 days, and it was 12-hour days they were, and it was incredible. The issue which obviously I had, being from the UK, is we were operating on US
US
East
times,
time,
yeah, yeah,
mate.
killer,
It was killer. It was
yeah,
two
yeah.
12-hour days. My wife took both my kids to the in-laws. She bought me loads of energy drinks, loads of food I could
It
stick in the
stopped you up.
microwave. Yeah, seriously. And literally left me for the whole weekend. and we played this tournament, and the amount of support was fantastic. Like we'd literally be playing these games, and you'd go into the Twitch chat, which was being broadcasted live, obviously with a delay or whatever, and people are cheering along, and literally like spamming emotes and doing whatever, and when we finished playing our game, we'd come back into the room and everyone would start talking to us, and then we'd watch the next game, and it was just literally a continual
That's
thing.
so sick.
It was fantastic. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
literally being at a LAN event, but
yeah,
still
yeah.
sitting at your home. And it felt like that because everyone was so accommodating and really, really welcoming with how the whole tournament was run. It was fantastic. It really, really was. So yeah, I look forward to doing one again as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine so. Especially, I mean, you think that's the scale of the game at the moment. It's exciting to see what's coming in the future. But I mean, what essentially got you into the competitive side of Zero Hour and ultimately onto a team like Hacks anyway?
I mean, I started playing Zero Hour, believe it or not, in May this year, 2021. I mean,
Okay.
the game came out in August 2020. Um, so I hadn't been playing long, and I actually got drafted into Hacks in the beginning of June. So it wasn't that long since I first started playing that I actually got put into Hacks, and it was quite a funny one. I don't know if you ever met Astro. Astro is very, very known
Yeah, yeah.
within
I've
the
spoken to Astro a
Zero.
couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very well known within the Zero Hour community as well. Private tester, makes made a lot of videos before regarding sort of tips and strategies and stuff like that. And he taught me a lot of stuff about the game as well. But it was funny because I was playing on the European server, something which I don't actually do a lot now because my team is mostly from the US. But playing on the European servers, and I kept bumping into Astro. Literally, like every game I was playing, I kept bumping into Astro, and literally, this was the only guy that was literally like going toe to toe with me at that point. And I was like, wow, man, And then I started talking to him, and then eventually I was like, shall we team up and that? And funny enough, long story short, after getting into hacks, sort of like a couple of weeks later, he actually did turn around to me and said, I actually thought you were hacking to me. He actually said to me, I actually thought you were hacking, which was a huge,
That's
huge
a
compliment.
compliment. Yeah, exactly. I was going to
Massive
say.
compliment,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
and and Astro basically brought me in to meet the guys in hacks, and we literally just played a scrim. We played an internal scrim, which I absolutely sweated my ass off. I'm not going to lie,
Of
just because this is the first time I was meeting the people. This is
course.
the
Yeah,
first time
yeah.
I was meeting people like Jomo, Ranger. These are
Which are
prevalent.
great guys, by the way, as well. Huge.
Fantastic,
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic guys. They're my brothers and my friends. And but everybody knows who they are in the community. When I turn up there as this new British person, like surrounded by American people, I think I'm going to get eaten alive by
Yeah, yeah.
sharks in water.
Hmm.
But I go into this game, I absolutely sweat my ass off, and the next thing I know, I'm being asked, would you like to join? And here's your tag, and the rest is history, my friend. And that's it. So
Well,
that's how hacks came about.
many longevities as well, hopefully, my friend. So, I mean, what I suppose if we talk about longevity, how what can be done? Do you think for the competitive scene to get it where it needs to be? If it's going to have, and I appreciate the player base is going to have a huge dealing with this, but if the competitive scene was going to have a viability in becoming successful,
Mhm.
where in your mind do you think it needs to go, or what needs to happen?
I mean, the game itself is in a good position, in my opinion. Yes, it's janky. Yes, it's rough around the edges. It's in early access. They need to obviously, improve by optimizing whatever they need to improve. I'm no expert, so apologies for any of my technical terms I use are not correct. But the one thing they need to do, which should be done, which the community are crying out for, is implementing an anti-cheat into the game. Now, somebody who's played this many hours as me, yes, I have come across cheaters in this game, but that doesn't mean they're all over the place. It's you get cheaters in every game you go to. It's just you will come across them more in this game because the player base is lower. However, saying that, it seems to be all these cheaters have moved on now to New World and Battlefield. I haven't seen one for for quite a while,
Yeah, yeah.
but it doesn't stop with the accusations of people hacking and people cheating. I mean, I'll bring you up to speed with regards to sort of competitive play. If you're playing in any of these tournaments nowadays or any of these leagues nowadays, you have to have your web camera pointed at your screen. It's not good enough just to stream through Discord, because you can find ways
And
to
rightly so as well.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the conversation we're having. People feel like it's intrusive or they don't want to buy a webcam. They don't want to do that. Well, unfortunately, that's the only option we have. Go and
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
a $20 webcam or £20 webcam or whatever from the internet and then use that, and that's the way you'll be able to play competitively because we don't have anti-cheat. You see these electronic sports leagues, like whatever, Rainbow Six Siege, Counter-Strike, whatever, you've always got a moderator walking up behind them all across
Hmm.
and looking at their screens, so it's no different to that, so if we're going to be playing competitively, then I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to stop that and to make people feel a lot more at ease and to stop all these accusations, you need to put an anti-cheat into this game, because I've seen it. I've seen the hacks that people can do, the cheats people can do, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
And,
You
and
know,
and largely pointless as well, because if you actually strip it back, I mean, yeah, okay, you're probably shitting on people whilst you're cheating, but once you strip that back, you're exactly back to square one. There is no point. There's no gain, no real monetary value. It's not as if you're going to get a stream that's going to pop off and you're going to get all these followers because you're making these sick plays when actually it's not you. So
Mhm,
I think you're spot on the money there, mate. But if we talk about changes in game, so if we start from when you first started playing Zero Hour to where it is now,
mhm.
what of those changes has been the most dramatic that you've actually sat back and gone, "Oh, this is cool," or perhaps, "No, this isn't really ideal."
So I think that the biggest change that sort of came out of nowhere, or changes, was the removal of the kill feed was a big thing. Um, a lot of players obviously didn't like the idea of it coming into play when it first came. I was one of them. I'll hold my hands up and say I didn't like the actual mechanic of having to report your kills.
Yeah.
But now I'm used to it. And I think it adds another depth of strategic element to the game. And I say that as in, like, you may not know if you've killed somebody. You might shoot somebody on a rappel on a window and you're not sure
Hmm.
if they're dead.
Yeah,
Or you
agree.
might throw a grenade into a room and you might not know if that person's dead in that room. And sometimes that can be the win or loss of that round because you're not, you don't know if someone's alive and you don't go for the bomb diffuser, or you take too long to get to the bomb diffuser, where in matter of fact there is nobody left on the other team, but the time's still ticking down and you lose the round because of it. You know, it's good mechanic. However, I know I discussed this with you before. I think they need to change a few things about it. I think that it's very inconsistent sometimes
I agree.
with regards to actually reporting it. When you press that F key, you need to be looking at a certain angle at the body, and that, for it to enable to register, you've actually pressed the F key to kill confirm. But
Sure.
not just that, it's the range.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
range of it, which I believe is a massive issue. I can shoot somebody, 10 feet down a corridor, but I can't report them as dead because they're 10 feet away.
But you
I
can
lit
report them in the next room through a wall by
Yeah,
scanning their body through a wall, which is
yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
It's mad.
yeah.
It's like this. There was this ongoing joke when we first started playing that literally you had to go up to them and check the pulse. Check the pulse, make sure they're dead. Yeah, reported. Yeah, they're dead. And that
Yeah,
was literally what it was. You needed to get as close as that, and you still do. To say they're dead. And I know I had this conversation before about last time. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. The corridors on Bank, Bank Heist, are really, really long corridors. I can see that I've killed somebody with a rifle down the other end, yet I cannot kill confirm that person's dead because I'm nowhere near them. There's no way in hell am I going to walk out in the middle of the corridor and expose myself
of
just to
course
get the
not.
kill
No,
confirmed.
exactly, exactly.
So you either need to do one of two options. You either need to just accept it and just carry on, or you need to actually be a good player and use your invoice chat and tell your team that one of them's dead. And hopefully they take note that one of the enemy team is already down. I mean, obviously it's different when you play competitively because you're always communicating with your
Of course
team.
you
You're
are.
saying, yeah, one down, and that's it. And the communications are very, very sort of quick and very precise. But yeah, so I mean, that's the kill confirm side of it.
Yeah,
The other major change, which was a huge change, which I don't think you would be aware of, was the audio change to the game. So the Operation Black Dawn was the previous update, big update to Operation Megna, which we're in now. Before then, the gun sounds were very, very different to what they are now today. They didn't have like the tinnitus effect. All the guns sounded a lot like pea shooters, sort of
yeah,
like
yeah.
back in
I
Black
remember
Dawn.
you mentioned about the shotgun used to sound like something out of Doom, didn't you? It's
Yeah.
like it was crazy.
So like Yeah, I mean, M7, if you're watching, what have you done to my shocker? I sounded so menacing walking through those corridors, kicking those doors in, boom, boom, boom. Now it just,
You've
yeah,
given him a water
Jambo,
pistol
yeah,
now.
that's it. Yeah, Jambo's coming. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all right. It doesn't sound as scary anymore. So, but no, I mean, all jokes aside, they changed a lot of the sounds of the guns, for the better on the most part. They really, really did. They do sound a lot better than they did. I've been told by a lot of my American buddies that if you were to shoot an AR in a room, this is what it would sound like. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to put it, Josh, for us, we don't have assault
Of
rifles in
course
the
not.
UK,
No,
so
no.
we're not going to be able to know what it sounds like if
No,
I'm really
rest
firing
easy with that one.
a fully automatic rifle in the room behind me. So I'll take their word for it that it sounds like, because when you first sort of get into Zero, and I know you mentioned this before, like the sound was just like, fuck, it's reverberating, I
Oh,
think
dude.
it's called,
Like, I mean, to
all
give you
over
an
the place.
example, it's obviously I come from like a Siege background, and Siege. Yeah, I mean, realism's not a thing in that game anymore at all, to say the least. And we've been over this multiple times, and people are bored of having the argument. But when I first loaded into Zero Hour and I shot my gun, for one, I couldn't work out where the audio was coming from different areas of people moving around. But I noticed as well, even with the tinnitus effect, probably murder the pronunciation of that, or tinnitus, whichever, depending on where you're from. Even with that turned off, you still get that audio that will dumb itself down even after you've shot a certain amount of bullets, which obviously isn't apparently clear to people that are new to the game. So there's certain elements of audio that can spike back up mid-round when you shoot your gun again. And honestly, it does shit you up sometimes because you're like,
Yeah.
where did that come from?
So I mean, if we're talking about audio and we're talking about what's good and what Zero Hour does bad, Zero Hour does audio good horizontally, right?
Okay,
I
yeah.
know I know if somebody's on my right-hand side, on the other side of a wall, or if they've just ADS'd, or they've just walked along, they're crouch walking or whatever like that, or they've just pulled a pin on a grenade. I know where that's coming from. However, the verticality sound, to me, it's non-existent.
Non-existent, yeah, sure.
Whether or not it's my headphones or that, but a lot of other people are saying this, and you'll probably agree with me as well. I'll be standing on like the second floor of Terror House, for instance, and I'll hear somebody walking around to my right, but they're not actually to my right; they're above to my
Yeah, yeah.
right. So that's something which needs to be sorted, like the
That's a clear
audio
example of
direction.
that is a match I played earlier, which was on Hospital and Power Stairs. You
Yep.
can't tell if they're coming through top floor from the roof or
Hmm.
second floor or first floor from the balcony. There is no change in audio between those 2 points, whether they're directly 3 floors above you or 1 floor above you. That's
Yeah.
something seriously not right there.
No, I agree completely, mate, and that's something which needs to be worked on as well. Because me, I'm an audio player.
Hmm.
Anybody knows I'm an audio player. I'll wait for that movement. I'll wait for that reload before I push you. And that's how I've always played. So to have the audio directional work for verticality, that would be huge. That would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
really, really good, because then you'll be able to sort of know and be able to reposition safely without knowing that somebody's possibly on your own floor. That's the problem which we have nowadays. So I don't know, that needs sorting. But as far as I'm concerned, the horizontal sound, the sound around you, it's absolutely fine.
Mm.
Like I like that, and they've nailed that. But yeah, they just need to sort out the
Just need to tweak that a little bit. I mean,
yeah.
okay, if we talk about tweaks going forward, if I said to
Hmm.
you, Zero Hour, but a year down the line, what
Yeah.
would you like to see in terms of progression and its overall state? And I know this is a topic that is probably quite heavy on your heart, because there's obviously a lot of things that we've discussed off camera and a lot of
Hmm.
things the community has discussed that is, I'm not going to say wrong with the game, because games, unfortunately, they take a lot of coding and a lot of things get fixed and then broken at the same time. But where would you like to see the game, i.e., with weapons, maps, mechanics, bugs, anti-cheat? Go for
Yeah.
it.
I won't dwell on it too much, but obviously anti-cheat is a must for me.
Huge. Yeah,
I
of
mentioned
course.
it before. It's huge. I think
Yeah.
anti-cheat is there. Not really much else to say. They need anti-cheat in the game. The second thing which I'd like to see, which is on the same sort of breath as well, regarding networking, I'd like to see dedicated servers in the game. SWAT 4 had dedicated servers. It worked very well. Like Ravenshield had dedicated servers. They worked very, very well. These big teams were able to sort of like set up their own servers, which improved sort of the hit rate, because it improved the tick rate of what was going on in the matches, and it made it a lot better. If you look at things like CS, for instance, I remember like you could tell the difference between a 32 tick rate, so a 64 tick rate server, to 128 tick rate server, regarding the hit reg and that sort of side of it as
Yeah.
well. So that's a big thing as well, which I think would be nice to implement. If they could do it on older games like that, I don't see why they couldn't do it now. They've obviously got the server browser, which is a massive step up. But I think dedicated servers needs to be a must in a game like this. And I know what the argument will be. They'll say that the player base isn't that big enough for dedicated servers, but I can guarantee you there are a lot of people out there who would be wanting
You
to
are
put
crying out
dedicated
for it,
servers. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I
put
completely agree.
dedicated servers up, and I know it was always a thing in the past, whatever, to have that sort of stuff, but it still goes on in games nowadays. You'll see it in Insurgency, you'll see it in, uh, whatever. I can't even think of the top of my head, but there's loads of them now, that
Cool,
run
sir.
dedicated servers. So yeah, but yeah, talking about sort of like core mechanics of the game, really, to be honest, if you're talking about a year on, it's hard, because I think the game is very balanced with its weapons as such. There's a few tweaks that need to be done here and there, and they've done a very, very good job with this update that's come out. Some of the maps need some optimization. Certainly, there's two that spring to mind.
Yeah.
Cafe 14 has a massive FPS drop on that. And it's not just me, and I know Gannon, who again is very, very prevalent within the community. He's in charge of CC competitive team. He done a lot of testing around Cafe 14 and went into every single room to test the frame drops, and it just seems to be something with the optimization of that map.
It's just
I don't
something it
know
doesn't
why.
like. Yeah.
Someone doesn't like, but it's the same as well with Megna, the boat.
Oh, yeah,
To
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I can't play that bloody map because it's
You're running at
literally
40 FPS or something.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
40
agree.
FPS, and I don't know why. It's just a boat.
It just
you
doesn't
know,
like it. Yeah.
just doesn't like it at all. So there's some optimization issues they need to sort out there as well. Weapons wise, yeah, you can keep adding whatever you want, utility and that sort of side of it as well. But a big thing for me is nobody likes the game mode hostage, right? This is the issue. Everybody plays bomb. You play competitive 0-hour, you do not play hostage.
Of course
Hostage is
not.
not even a thought.
Hmm.
It's bomb and that's it. You don't even have the choice. Hostage, unfortunately, gets played in sort of like public matches, and everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to play this now. I don't want to." And it's because the AI pathing is crap.
It's
There's no easy,
terrible. It's
there's no easy
awful.
way to say it. It's awful, mate. Yeah. And what I'd like to see, if you're asking me if I had like full reign of this sort of
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Yeah,
development
yeah.
team, I'd love to be able to implement a new mode, which would be like a VIP mode. And I can't remember if I mentioned this to you before, but they used to have it like in SWAT 4, where it would still be a 5v5, but one of the five on the counter terrorist would have somebody nominated randomly as the
Yeah,
VIP.
like high profile. You have to
Yeah,
protect him. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Or
protect
take
them.
him out.
They'd only have access to a pistol, but they'd have like twice the armor. And you had to escort them from one sort of like point to another point. So let's just say, for instance, let's just use bank for instance. Like you have to escort them from the roof down to the front where the ATM is or whatever. That was it. And then you're on your way. Your enemy team are going to obviously set up and lay traps for you on the way. And I think that'll be a fantastic way to do it. Um, as a different game mode, which will keep the game fresh. But the other thing, when you start talking about AI and hostage and that as well, something which I think is missing in the game is being able to damage or down or kill the hostage.
Oh,
I
huge.
I
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I think it's extremely stupid that you can throw a grenade
This is
into a room.
exactly it. Right, when I first started, sorry to cut you off. When I
No,
first
no,
started
yeah,
playing 0-hour, I remember, and I think it was actually on Megna, and you know where the hatches are that lead down to the storage room. Chucked a grenade down there, and it was right at the hostage. And I said to my team, I said, "I'm sorry, boys, I've absolutely fucked this for us." Blew up, nothing happened, and I was like,
yeah,
"Dude, I just chucked a grenade at this poor bloke who's strapped up." Like literally wearing no armor, he's just got a bit of tape over his mouth, and he sees this grenade at it, and he's like, "No, this is fine. I'm fine like this." And I thought, oh my god, but that didn't do anything to him. And
no,
even sometimes when people have been defusing bombs and I've been on the defensive round, a couple of my shots have like gone towards the hostage, and I think, oh, I've definitely hit him in the head. Nothing. We'll get onto hit reg a bit later as well, but that's another thing. But yeah,
yeah.
I think you're on the right path there. Definitely,
I think
definitely.
I think I think what it would do, it'll actually change the strategies that a lot of teams use. Like for instance, let's just say you're playing competitive 0-hour, you're playing 5v5, two comp teams, against one another. The amount of time people sit on site literally next to the hostage, like for cover or whatever like that, and don't care that they can shoot through the hostage or a grenade comes in, doesn't matter because it's not going to kill the hostage. It's huge. If you
Yeah.
introduce that into the game, the tactics will be completely different, and it'll play out differently. It really, really would. So that's something which the development team needs to take on board. And I don't know how they're going to do it. If it's If whether or not the defending team can actually damage a hostage or not, I don't know. And if they do damage the hostage and the hostage goes down, they've got a certain time limit to pick up the
I mean,
hostage. I mean,
hostage to me at the moment, just because of the AI pathing, always seems like more of a team deathmatch. It's just a frag
yeah.
fest because, I mean, Bank's a prime example. I played Bank yesterday and I got the hostage from the second floor. I run down the main stairs and he runs up the main stairs. Just because where my character is and where I got him from, I happen to be on the sort of same level as him going down as he was at the bottom of the stairs that are above me. And he thought, oh, okay, you must be going up the stairs. And by the time I've gone back round to get him, I'm exposing myself to other angles. And normally, I think the team normally cleans up by then anyway. So there's really no point to it. But
Mhm.
I mean, if we sort of take away not necessarily the negative things, we talk about progression, but what is it for someone who's spent as long as you have in this game? What is it that ticks your box every time that makes you come back? Things that you really, really love that just tick your box. What does Zero Hour do right for you?
Do you know what? I mean, I know I've obviously touched on the game mechanics. The one I do not give enough credit for this game is the procedurally prop generation. The
Yes.
procedural prop
Yeah.
generation. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. It makes every round different. It makes you think on your feet. Yes, okay, they do spawn in very same places, like sort of every other round or every few rounds, where they particularly could spawn. They're going to cut off a certain repel point. You check it. If it's blocked off, you need to go around the other way. And that doesn't get enough credit, because it changes the way the round is played out. You might have some sort of strats in place, as a team. I know me on my team in hacks, we have conversations and training, where we would talk about strategies which we'll put in place if we're attacking certain points
Yeah.
or
Of
defending certain points. Now, that could all be blown out the window if something's blocked off in the game, and
course.
then we need to go to plan B, and we need to think on our feet. So that is a massive yes for me, because that's not implemented in any other game that I know of that's an FPS game. So quote me if I'm wrong, I don't know. But certainly not a close quarters combat sort of game.
No, no, and I think I suppose if you relate back to, I mean, I'm only going to say Siege because that's what I come from. I mean, there's no procedural prop placement there. You've got, elements of destruction, which most games have got these days, or bullet penetration. But to actually plan out in the prep phase, right, I'm going to rappel up, this balcony, I'm going through this window, then to get there and it's blocked by like a bench or, like a dresser or something, then you actually have to then do like a kind of a mental reverse on yourself and think, right, well, where can I go from here? And that does bring another element to it because it stops the same old pushes constantly. Because if you're an experienced player, which of course you are, and you're playing against a team that, for lack of a better term, aren't quite up to scratch, if you know that this one push you've got as a team is your strongest push and there's nothing stopping you, you are just going to rinse that until it fails. And
Mhm.
it kind of gives them an element of, right, that's blocked off this time. Maybe we can funnel them somewhere else. And you've got to change your own strategy. And I really, really love that as well. And I'm glad you brought that up because not enough games do that, and we don't give enough credit to the developers for doing that in Zero Hour.
I think it's a huge selling point. I think they're missing the trick by not advertising, saying, like 5v5 tactical shooter, with procedural prop generation,
Are you
and
telling
and
me that shoulder tapping's not enough?
oh yeah, well, that's another thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're talking about things which are really really good in the game. I like the system in the game. I like the economy system for the weapons. I like the fact that you don't have what's the right way to put it? I like the way you don't have obviously money to buy things like in CS, but I like the fact that you've got
you
limited amount
you
of
got
weapons to
depleting
use.
units, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
So you need to think about, again, this is a thinking man's game, or thinking person's game, sorry, shall I say, that you need to think about what weapons you're going to take into a certain scenario. You're playing Cafe 14, 9 times out of 10, the team are going to pick basement as their first defense, because that is one of the hardest points to attack. You're not getting in there unless you've got a shield. Unless you've got a shield to take down there, you're not getting in there. So you need to think about what sort of like items or kit you want to take with you. So if you've blown all your utility on like other sort of sites and that, then you're obviously going to be down
Of
because
course.
you haven't got the right gear to take whatever site you're going to take. So you really need to think about that, because again, before this update, the defenders didn't have a weapon economy. Okay, they could literally, everyone could arm themselves with an AK. That was it. Constantly every
It's
round, everyone
madness,
had an
yeah.
AK, and
Yeah.
the AK, in my opinion, is one of the most balanced guns in the game. If not probably the best gun in the game. I don't know. I mean, that's obviously out for the debate, but that's just my opinion with the AR. But they had a utility economy. back then. So you can only have a certain amount of door traps, a certain amount of way, like we know now. But
Yeah,
then if you flipped it over to the attackers had the weapon economy, but didn't have a utility economy. So every round, everyone could have MVGs.
yeah,
Now you only get 7. You know,
yeah,
so that's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, no. So I like that. I like the fact that you have to think about what weapons you're going to take, because a lot of time in sort of competitive matches, and I keep leaning back to competitive sort of sides where we will run a cheap round, first round or whatever. Just say, for instance, we'll all arm ourselves with like Mac 10s.
Yeah.
And that's it. We'll literally just storm the place with Mac 10s or the MP7 or whatever it is, and we'll use our weaker weapons. If we take the site, it's a bonus. If we don't, then we've still got like another 2 rounds with better weapons.
Plus,
You
it
see what
allows
I
you to
mean?
weigh up the enemy team as well, right? You're
Yeah,
allowed, you're kind of getting free information. I can
yeah.
assume out of that. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you if you flip it on its head, then so we talked about what you like. Now, here's it's probably something you're looking forward to. What is it to further that you really don't enjoy right now, or things that need, if not immediate progression or immediate rectification in the game?
I mean, we've touched on quite a few of the sort of issues which I said before. It's the AI pathing of the hostage that either needs to
Hmm.
be completely taken out of the game or redone.
Yeah,
You know, the fact that the hostage doesn't take damage, or the hostage with the bomb doesn't take damage, that needs to be done, because it's just stupid being able to throw a grenade or a C4 near the hostage just doesn't die, whereas you can all die. I also think that some maps need to obviously be changed. I don't like some maps. I know we've obviously spoken about Zero as a competitive game or like a 5v5 PvP, but you need to remember as well, this is a PvE co-op game as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
so there are some maps in this game which are a co-op person's dream.
yeah.
They're
Of
an
course,
absolute
there are
dream.
like
You know,
hospital, for example.
Hospital was built for co-op. Don't get me wrong, it's a good map. I like the map PvP. But there's so many doors on there that you're never going to use in PvP. It's
And
just
not only
pointless.
that, even if you don't use them, if you're playing against newer players, which I know me and you have had this conversation before, but typically, if you're facing a high level team or a competitive team, you know that 9 times out of 10, this guy is going to peek from there, he's going to spawn there, he's going to hold there. But newer players, and probably myself included, I'm creeping on 40 hours now, so because I've been playing with you guys, I've picked up quite a bit. But newer players that are brand new to it probably will sit in one of the wards next to the bed, and they will open a door randomly and peek you through hallways that you wouldn't even think would exist. But I do agree with what you're saying
Do you
completely.
know what? Do you know what? Just to sort of piggyback off what you just said, then I find playing newer players or more inexperienced players harder
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes than playing more experienced players, because it's the unknown.
Because they
You
do
don't know
random
where they're going to
shit.
be. You don't know
That's
where
what it
they're
is.
going
They
to
do
be
random
seated.
shit.
They literally just come out of the toilet that they've been sitting in the entire game and just wipe you completely.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, come on, man. What are you doing there? Whereas I know, like, top players or top 30 in the leaderboard are going to be there
Yeah,
and there. They're going to be holding that and that.
exactly.
So when Mr. Chegg over here jumps out the toilet with his shotgun blowing you to bits, that's
You're
it's a
thinking,
different
hang on,
story.
buddy. No, I'm not even counting that as a death. What are you doing there? What are you doing there?
Absolutely.
Um,
But I mean, like, it's a co-op game as well. So that obviously, this is what the development team are doing. They're not concentrating on one side of it. They're not concentrating on PvP and
do
totally
you
and
think
and having it as an
it
afterthought.
needs to become either or do you think as it stands right now there is a level of love and a place for PvE and there's a place for PvP, or do you think, and again this is an open debate, I'm not going to put you on the spot and say that's wrong, this
Yeah.
is wrong, but do you think really if they're going to push this game forward, does it need to be hardcore mil sim PvE, or does it need to be PvP 5v5 build off that?
So this game will not survive on PvE
I don't
only.
think so either.
It,
Yeah,
it,
agreed.
it it won't survive. It's fun, I mean, I've not played it, but people say it's fun. What I will say is the official Zero Hour Discord is always full of people sitting in those voice chats that want to play co-op. The looking for group chat is always like, anyone want to play co-op with me? Anyone want to do this? Yeah. So there is a market there to play co-op, but unfortunately, it won't last as long as PvP. Everybody knows that
Of
it's a
course not.
no-brainer. And the question, obviously, you are: should they be focused on one more than the other? Well, I mean, I don't know really. Me and being biased, I say, yeah, you should be focused on the PvP
Of
because you
course.
potentially got a game here that's like a hidden, gem that
Gem.
not a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people
yeah.
know about. And the more you push that side of it, the more the player base is going to improve and it's going to get better and better. But then the other part of me as well is like, well, maybe half or maybe just less than half of the community are playing co-op, because that's what you got to remember as well. It might show there's 2,000 people playing Zero, but maybe 1,000 of them are playing co-op. So you just don't know. And I don't think the development team want to take that risk, of completely ignoring one or the other. So it's going to take time, and that's why obviously it's still early access. If they're going to bring them both up at the same time, if you know what I mean,
I,
it's
I, I do agree. I mean, I
yeah.
typically, and I don't mean to, I guess, tar newer players coming into the game, but these are a lot of the people that will play the PVE, the co-op matches, whether it's just to familiarize themselves with some of the maps before they go into what can be a very, very brutal learning curve of a game, because it is. But with that being said, what do you think, as a player that's had over 800 hours in the game, what do you think the new player experience looks right now? If you were to pick 0 hour up today, what do you think that experience looks like in terms of, is it too much to learn? Is it too hard, too sweaty? Where are we at?
I don't think it's too sweaty. As you've known and played together, there's a lot of new players that are coming into this game. There's
Yeah,
a lot of new players which I'm having to, and you as well, are having to educate, and tell them within the game. Now, whether or not they listen to us and listen to me, it is neither here or there. I did my best and I'm trying to help, but I think that it's a difficult game to get on with because of how janky it feels. A
sure.
lot of people say that it's a mix between sort of Siege and Tarkov. Tarkov sort of movement wise, and Siege sort of gameplay. Yeah, you're right to an extent. Yeah, of course you are. But I think people are expecting sort of like to come into the game and 360 no scope somebody, with one shot and then sort of like, I don't know, dance on their body. You can't do any of that. This
Of
is not
course not.
Fortnite.
No,
This
no,
is
no.
not, a Warzone or whatever like that. This is a hardcore 5v5 tactical shooter that requires patience to play. And if you don't have patience to play, then, like you're either very, very lucky running around like an elephant, taking out the team, or you're extremely skilled. It just doesn't really work. And if you're up against a five stack of competitive players who have got an average of about 1,000 hours each, you're going to lose every single time if you don't play the game properly how it's meant to be played. We laugh sometimes at like the term mill sim. Yes, there are a lot of people who mill sim too much in the game,
Yeah, of
but to a
course.
certain extent, you have to play as a team. You have to watch each other's back. You go through a door, and one of you will go through the door, the other one will be looking behind you as you go through, and you'll be checking corners as you would tactically, and you do that in every FPS to some certain extent, but there's no jump key in this. There's no like sort of like quick drop, where you can go down to prone, whatever, very,
Yeah.
very fast. So you have to rely on what's in front of you and in peak and play properly. So for new players coming in, yeah, okay, I mean, it's probably not what they're used to. I mean, when I considered myself as a new player, I took to it like, a duck in water, shall we say, or whatever. It was something which just gelled with me because I played those old tactical shooters.
You had
Now this
that
is
kind of
yeah,
foundation, right? Yeah,
and this is not a known genre to many of the people playing nowadays. Like
of
a lot of
course.
like people will pick it up who play Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever like that, and expect it to be something like, or expect it to be like Siege, which you said obviously is very arcadey now. It's no longer sort of like a tactical
It's more
sort
of
of
an
game
anime
anymore.
sort of arcade shooter, isn't it now?
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
and they'll come into it and they'll either love it or they'll hate it.
Yeah. And I think as well, I mean, just to further expand on the new player experience, and I've made a lot of videos on the channel, not to shamelessly plug, but there's a lot of good videos out there that I personally feel would help newer players. But for someone who has as many hours in the game as you, what would you advise newer players to be on the lookout for, or making their first steps into the game? Do you kind of have a path in where you're thinking, look, this is what you need to be aware of, this is, perhaps what you want to consider? What do you think?
Mhm. I mean, the first and foremost thing is you need to have a microphone. If you haven't got a microphone in this game, any game nowadays, you're already at a huge disadvantage
Yeah,
when
yeah.
playing a game like that. Not a lot of people use, push to talk. And for many of you who might be watching this, who may be new, who don't actually know, or thinking about joining and picking up the game, it's middle mouse button by default. And the amount of times I get asked that is at least once or twice every single time I play the game. What's push to talk? How do I talk in the game? So first and foremost, you need to make sure you're talking on the mic so you can help your teammates out. The second thing as well, and I know you made a video about it, is that I think taking out the breaker box to cut the lights is a huge disadvantage for attackers. I really, really do. I don't want to dwell on it too much because you can go and watch Deployable's video about it. But it's not implemented properly. It's cool because it's a mechanic which doesn't happen in Siege. Oh my god, this is something completely different. We've got to go and do it. And not only that, it's plastered on the map with a huge flipping lightning bolt. So automatically everyone's going to be drawn to it like a moth to a
And
flame.
marketed like crazy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's what they say. That's what they market it as. The lights go off, all the lasers are out. You feel badass walking around. You're flipping gun halfway on the side with its laser on there, and you're shooting people. But in realistic terms, somebody shines a flashlight in your face, you're screwed.
Exactly.
Because you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And then some of your teammates who you didn't communicate with in the first place because you didn't use push to talk, haven't got night vision goggles with them, and then you're even more screwed. So and then thirdly, you've got somebody like me sitting there at the power waiting for you to come in. Then you're screwed because you've just lost 3 teammates.
And the angles, I did say this in the video as well, but the angles that the defenders can hold on these power boxes are too tight and too long of an angle most of the time for you to even challenge. Most of the corners you can't really even get a nade on, like apart from maybe like cafe bottom floor perhaps. But even then, there's so many sets of stairs, so many levels that you can be contested from, that really, if you go for power, even if you had someone else stacking up on you, if you both die, that's instantly a 3v5. And your chances of winning that round, they drop considerably. It is, and I think, I'm glad you touched on that first and not just kind of made a video about it, but it does make a huge difference. And I think it is cool as fuck, don't get me wrong, but if you actually look at, even if you get your MVGs on, and even though you can't ADS, I don't know if you probably know this anyway because you spent so long in the game, but you're the angle that you can actually get whilst aiming, like pretending to aim down sight or pulling your gun up, it's a lot smaller than what you can get when leaning when ADS, and you don't actually get the full coverage of your swing either. So not only can you not ADS, but you can't even lean and peak as far as you would if you were ADSing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that again brings us back to the whole sort of is it a co-op game? Is it a PvP game? Because in the co-op game, everyone's going to go for the lights, put the laser beams on, and shoot the terrorists. Because that's why it is. And then, of course, you're going to implement it over into PvP
and just spam X, and you just get police guns down every 5 seconds.
But the thing is that what you will see, and if anybody wants to take this on board, and the majority of the community will know this, but in the competitive environment, no team turns off the lights. Okay, I'll say that right now. There is no competitive team that goes in there turning out the lights. Okay, they may do it once, they may do it twice, whatever like that. Very, very few occasions, just to throw the other team off. But it is not a strategy which is used by top flight teams. We don't do it, and the other teams don't do it as well. So
I guess the only place that it should probably have is maybe like, I don't know, bank probably on defense. Would you say?
Well,
just
there
to
you go.
Stop the shutters.
So yeah, that's the thing, and that's touching on another thing that players know. All of the bank heist is surrounded by a shutter, which can be raised by walking into the ATM booth by pressing the computer in there. But that can only be done by the attackers if the power is still on. So that is the only map in the game where the defenders have the advantage by turning the power off. The amount of times I've turned the power off in game and I've been shouted at by random people saying, "Why have you turned the power off?" I'm just like, but that means they can do the shot, and they just don't listen to me. They turn
too
the power
exhausted
back on,
to even explain it. Yeah,
I know, but I try my best. But then again, the amount of times I've educated people to, go into the ATM booth to raise the shutters is unreal, and like they don't know it. And even to this day, I'm still telling people that you can do that, and it makes that attack on bank very, very much more easier, to do. So yeah, I'm glad you touched on that. But no other map, man, needs the power turned off. You don't. But again, that's however you want to play. If you're going to take anything from me, like I'm considered quite a high, caliber player within the 0 hour community, and lights off is bad. Don't do it.
Don't do it. You heard that here. Jambo says no lights. Well,
No lights.
keep lights, no turn off.
Yeah, don't turn them off.
Let's move on to the content creators, sponsored streams in the community, because this is something that I'm quite interested in exploring. So, as we've both discussed before, there's a lot of content creators which, rightly or wrongly, have got their own in-game cosmetics, watches that they've earned in a way, but these are people that will pull up the game once a year for a sponsored stream, and one thing, before we get into the watches, one thing I massively want to touch on, which I actually watched back and I was quite disgusted really with how it was played out, and that was the sponsored stream with Shroud, Pestilli, Clean, Binans, and Sacriel. And did you see how much stream sniping and like
Yeah.
spawn camping and everything was going on there? And the one thing, and again, I watched this stream when I was fairly new, like a couple of hours into Zero Hour, and I thought to myself, if Shroud is getting shit on in an FPS, why would I want to go out, whether it was £5, £9, £10? Why would I want to put myself through that? And I think if the developers have paid them, which of course they would have done to play that game, the only thing that's done is, I would say, stump the growth of the game as opposed to actually allow it to
Mhm.
flourish a bit more. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, Shroud touched on it perfectly. He said, and he called it before even playing Zero Hour with his guys then, that they're in there to have a good time. They know that people are going to try and stream snipe them, but all it's going to do is be detrimental towards the growth of the game. He
Yeah,
called that before it even happened and took place. Now, I personally know people who did it that day. They are competitive players. They are players in the same sort of boat as me, who've got the same experience as me. And could you imagine five of me, all like the hacks guys that all teaming up to go against five people who've never bloody played the game before and just shit on them as a,
especially on like plane as well. You got them; they're approaching the cargo hold, not knowing that they can get spawn peek from the bottom of the ramp.
yeah,
And even the wings and stuff. And I don't know. I was watching it, and that's the first time. And I normally love watching Shroud videos, and even
yeah,
Pestilli's a great guy if you're into your Tarkov stuff. But I normally watch his videos and go, "This is fantastic." But that's the first time I've watched a video like that, and I actually cringed on it. I felt embarrassed to even like
yeah,
play that game because I was thinking to myself, like, you know, really what should have happened there is they'd sponsored 10 people to play it and they
yeah,
jump into a match together to
yeah,
play it that way. Because if you're playing with a community, you've got people like that. Anyone who's had more time than someone else in a game like Zero Hour, when you start knowing the angles, you start knowing the meta stuff, of course you're going to shit on someone.
hmm,
So to watch that and to have someone of such a high caliber stream it and still get shit on, it's not a good look. And that's the
no,
first thing I thought of when I watched that. I thought, even because Clean as well, he actually played quite a lot of Zero Hour. He's even got, his watching game is probably, out of the content creators that don't play the game anymore, probably one of the more, I say, deserved, brackets,
hmm,
close brackets, but he's actually fairly good at the game, and even
yeah.
he got destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that was very, left a sour taste in my mouth. That I don't know what the devs were doing. Right? Okay, they obviously just saw an opportunity there. Let's get some of the biggest streamers, and probably the biggest streamer that's been around, for a very
Of
long
course.
time,
Yeah.
into Zero Hour. Let's just chuck them in. Why the hell did they put them into public matches? Is completely beyond me.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do what you said, or at least reach out to some of the content creators like us, like to play with them? I mean, I'm not talking about playing a 5v5. I'm talking about getting people who are good with the game and mix up the teams and play custom games.
Of
So
course.
no
Yeah.
one else can come in and
They
you can
can
literally
they
just
can
play
learn
it and
from
you
you
get
as well and mix it around.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, but it was a couple of hours completely lost. Like I mean, I know obviously for the first sort of couple of games they had a bad time, because they were getting stream snipes by the same people. Just to get that little icon in the top right hand corner saying, so and so killed Shroud. And
Yeah.
you can screenshot that forever and put it on your Steam profile. Whoop de doo, you killed somebody who's never played the bloody game before.
Yeah. Exactly.
But eventually they got it right. They ended up playing custom games and that. But I don't know why they just didn't have the developers play with them, or have the community moderators play with them, or some of the content creators play with them. It's just beyond me, mate. And it really pissed me off, and the people who did it really pissed me off as well, and that's quite strong to say, but it was the common sort of like thought from everybody within the Zero Hour community who actually gave a damn about the game. And we were really annoyed that some of our sort of counterparts on other competitive teams actually did that.
Well, these people are
You know,
representing you
yeah,
as well, whether you like it or not, whether you're in the same team, same friend list, same like whatever. These people are the face of Zero Hour. And to all of these people, you think in each of those streams, you've probably got, I mean, how many people watch Shroud on a regular now? 40,000 people, 50,000
yeah,
people streaming. Pestilli's probably got 10, 20, and you're talking up, say, collectively, well over 100,000 people watching that stream. And they are, even if you take 10% of that viewership that actually retain into Zero Hour, that would do massive things for Zero Hour. But honestly, I know I said it before, but I walked away from that video and I thought, wow, do you know what? I'm lucky that I started playing the game before I actually saw that video, because otherwise I probably wouldn't. If I hadn't have come across to your stream where I actually saw you playing the game and I thought, oh, it's fairly cheap, I'll give it a go, and actually really liked it, I wouldn't have done. Not from that stream anyway.
no. And do you know what? Like sort of moving on sort of from that now, with regards to content creation and that sort of stuff as well. You know, I dread to think how many copies of Zero Hour I have inadvertently sold,
Mm.
and nobody gives a damn about me. Nobody cares about me from the development team and that, like as you said in the beginning, you got these streamers that have got all their watches in the game, and then, they play once a year or whatever like that, open and close brackets or however you want to put it. Whereas me, I dedicate myself to playing this game sort of every day. It's the only game I stream. I started streaming because of this game, and the amount of people that's come through my stream saying, "How is this game?" and I'll give them a proper, answer. I'm not going to go, "Yeah, it's great, go buy it." I'll give them a proper
The
rundown every
actual
single
rundown,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And and they've come back to my stream since and said, "Thanks, Jambo. You're the reason why I bought this game, and I'm really, really enjoying it." Or I get messages saying, "Can I play with you?" Of course, you can come and play with me. It's no problem at all. What else have I got to do in the game? I don't need to learn anything else. I've learned everything I need to learn at 800 hours. So why wouldn't I play with some people who want to watch me play and want to learn the game? And that sort of stuff. So that's the cool thing about it. That's what makes me good about being a content creator here. And yeah, I'm on the small level of content creation, content creators, of course I am. But, I'm thankful for everybody who sort of comes out and supports me, for that, because the community is small and it's that tight knit community. But like I said, mate, it's just, there's so many other people within the community that deserve something within the game rather than all these big people that got thousands upon thousands of viewers. And I don't want to sound salty about it because I'm not just speaking for myself. There's a lot of other people who stream this game on a daily basis, that need something within the game. X-Play recently just got his sweatband, which is a good sign. That man's done a lot for the community. He still does a lot for it with the casting bits and pieces as well. But I still think the development team need to appreciate the people who are still pushing this game out, because I've had to change my complete schedule, around playing Zero Hour, being part of a competitive team that is solely pretty much American. Having to change the time zones, as
It's
well,
not
and
easy
have
to
it.
do. Not when you've
No,
got, I mean, I'm sort of sure you don't mind me saying you're a family man. You've got other
yeah,
things. You've got responsibilities, just like everyone does. And I think collectively, if you look at, I mean, you would average from what I see on your streams. I mean, I've seen you there with sometimes 40, 50 viewers in some of your
mm,
streams. And if you're going live, which you do probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 times a week, but if you're doing that every week consistently, and they're not all the same people that jump in your stream. So imagine the exposure you're actually over a year giving Zero Hour.
yeah,
There's a lot to be said for that, especially if you've got a streamer who is, you know, dedicated to the game, knows a lot of their shit about the game, and you're actually interacting with the people and you're going, yeah, do you know what? Zero Hour, yeah, it's rough around the edges, but it'll only cost you this much. And do you know what? If you're into Siege right now, but you're sort of falling off it a little bit because of this could be the next replacement. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think the issue you've got, if they give someone a watch in game, one of the big content creators, typically all that happens is they tweet it out and they'll say, "Oh, guys, check out! I've got a watch now in Zero Hour." But they're never seen playing it. It's not as if they're top of the Twitch charts or
no,
they're uploading YouTube videos constantly of it. So you'll notice as well that the devs have, of course, made these watches free because if you had to pay for it, no one's going to come across to a brand new game that they've seen their content creator has a watch in, grind it enough to buy the watch, and then
hmm
carry on playing. Whereas at least if it's free, they can go, oh, look, at least I'll have a couple of games to see what the watch looks like,
hmm
rather than having to make that initial investment. And, I get why they've done that, but I just don't think you should shy away from the people that are leveraging your game every single day. I
yeah,
really don't, because that is where, if it gets to the point where a couple of years down the line and you guys are a lot bigger because the game's gone mainstream, without you guys in the first place playing that game constantly and building these discords, building these communities, it wouldn't get to that point.
yeah. No, no. I mean, I'm a humble guy, man. Anyone who knows me and knows me, bloke, like I'm down to earth. I basically got a game which I love, and it's like we said before, it's rough around the edges, but I'm willing to put that time and effort into it to make sure that it succeeds,
Yeah.
and I'm trying my best to give Zero Hour its exposure. You're trying your best to give the exposure that it needs to have, and there's plenty of other content creators that are doing exactly the same, but just on a smaller level. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can, you can get Shroud to come in one day with his 40,000, viewers. It might sell, like 300-400 copies of the game. Yeah, great. Okay, so you've made a few sales there. You've got your money back for getting your content creators, streamers coming in. Your big time ones. But you're forgetting about the small people that are not going to be around forever if they don't get acknowledged. Saying thank you very much for helping me. I mean, I don't need a pat on the back. It sounds wrong. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that we're here. We just need some sort of like help with regards to, exposing sort of Zero Hour, to other people within sort of the gaming community, to get it out there, because I don't think they do their advertising very well. I really don't. I don't think the game's advertised very well at
We've
all.
touched on this, haven't we, so many times, and I'm glad you kind of went off in this path because I would have totally forgot to mention it. But you said to me even various times, if you Google Zero Hour, what comes up? And it's not Zero Hour, it's Firewall, it's Command and Conquer. This game is so buried, and it's such a detriment to its own growth sometimes. And look, don't get me wrong, I genuinely adore this game. I really do. And if it sounds like I'm being negative, I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
passionate about getting it to where it needs to be. But something has got to happen, whether it be renaming the game or perhaps making it, even giving it like a subtle subtitle towards it, like Zero Hour something, just
Mhm.
because when you Google search something, I don't know what else to type other than Zero Hour or Zero Hour Tactical FPS, but then even the VR version of Firewall comes up anyway
I
if you
know,
type that
I
in.
know, I
So
know. That's
it's
the
tough,
thing.
man. It's tough.
But the thing is, like Command and Conquer Zero Hour was like the add-on for that Command and Conquer game, and that's been out for many years. So majority of all the videos that come up are literally that,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah, they do. I agree with you. They need a branding change there to get the game out more, But again, there's a lot of content creators that are trying to do it off their own back, trying to promote it in different places as well. And there's a lot of people that deserve a lot of recognition within the community that are doing a lot of work that people don't actually appreciate what's going on. I said before, the tournament's a very, very good place for people to get known. That's where I amassed a lot of my following, going forward. And I'm thankful for like fans and people that wanted to come out to come and watch
Yeah,
me play,
absolutely.
watch the other people play as well. But you know, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do. It's I mean, like, there's people like me who are not even like private testers of the game. Not that I want to be, not that I care, but I feel like I have a lot to offer
Of course.
within Zero Hour. And there's a lot of other people as well who've got a lot to offer. My guys on my team have got a lot of hours. And there's various other competitive team that've got a lot of hours as well that have a lot of knowledge. But I don't know whether or not the development team are worried that we're going to go in there and sort of say, look, this is crap. You need to do this, and completely
Sure.
want to change the whole game.
Saving face sort of thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's not the case, and like you obviously clearly put as well, as me, I wouldn't still be here doing this podcast with you 800 hours into playing Zero Hour if I didn't still care about the
Of
game and
course
want
not.
it to
Yeah, yeah.
progress.
Hmm.
So if anybody did watch this, that's part of the development team over there, we love this game. We want the game to succeed, and we're
Absolutely.
trying our best, to get the exposure it needs to get, and taking part in these competitive things, taking time out of our lives, away from our families and that, to make sure the game succeeds. Because as well as I do, one update that comes out that people don't like, oof, player base is
It's
going to go.
gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you
I
need
completely
people.
agree.
You need people like yourself, like me, who have a common interest within the game to say this is what needs to be done. You don't need to do that, or however you want to put it. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
I completely, and you can tell by the way that you're trying to put these things across, because you can actually, I don't know if you caught that, but you can hear the frustration sometimes in your voice, and not in a bad way. It's passion, man, and you
Yeah.
don't see that of a lot of people that play these games, and especially when people come from bigger games, that they take that platform as a granted, and unfortunately, the reality is if Zero Hour doesn't get to where it needs to be, it might not become a thing moving forward, and that would be there's a lot of people that would be, if you take the game aside, hacks, for example, there's a lot of good people in there that you're not only losing the game, but you're losing the foundation. You're losing family to an extent. A
Mhm.
lot of you guys are way closer than that, and you'd stick together with whatever
Yeah.
you did. But there's a lot of people in this game that this game has done more things for them than just provide a gameplay experience. It's actually built families, connections,
Yeah.
relationships. It's done a lot. But one thing I would ask you, without trying to draw this out too much, because I'm cautious of time and your time as well, but when do you think, timescale wise, Zero Hour will be in a state where you can say it can leave early access as a full release? Or, in your mind, have you got an idea, an inclination as to when that would be?
I mean, I'm obviously quite biased, and I think Zero Hour is in a good place to be. It just needs some of the work under the hood, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah.
Which needs sort of like some sort of network changes and that sort of stuff. I'm not really the person that's can answer that sort of stuff.
Sure.
I know that it has some sort of server issues sometimes with hit registration, which we've spoken about before. I know it has the issues of not having any anti-cheat and stuff like that. I think this game is probably one of the better games, or probably one of the best games on Steam that you can get in early access now. It's a polished game. It works extremely well, and there's a lot of fun to be had with the game. I don't know. If you're going to be putting a tag on it to say, well, it needs to have full team maps, it needs to have these many game modes
Mm,
and these many guns in it. Well,
like a
that's not the case.
requirement.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't certainly think that needs to happen. I think you just need a little bit more polish, on top of it. Really, to be honest, for it to leave early access. I know they're the major complaints, and I speak about the majority of the community, which is anti-cheat, which is hit reg, and they want dedicated servers. They're the biggest things which the community want at the moment. They'd rather take anti-cheat over a new gun or a new map,
Of
and that
course.
sort of side of it as well. But I do think it's in a good state. I really, really do. I highly recommend people who haven't checked it out yet to buy it. Definitely, 100%. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me to answer that question, Josh.
No, no, it's
Because
fine,
it's
dude. And there's going to be things in here that ultimately can't be answered because it is how long's a piece of string. It's
mm,
just, I guess that the question, the reason why I put that question forward is because when you look at 0 hour, the main comparison when you're looking at tactical games, say for example, is actually I wouldn't actually go towards the Rainbow Six Siege fan base. I would look at Ground Branch, for example,
hmm
because a lot of people compare 0 hour and Ground Branch together.
yeah,
Now, for me personally, as still an outsider looking in, although I've got just over 40 hours in 0 hour and I've not played an awful lot of Ground Branch, I would still consider Ground Branch to be way more PVE focused. And 0 hour, arguably, for me personally, I wouldn't really touch PV that much. It's much more of a PvP experience. But if you were talking to someone, obviously you're going to be slightly more biased, perhaps towards 0 hour. But what would your opinion be if someone was considering, right, my choice is between 0 hour and Ground Branch? Where would you go, and what would perhaps you say to that?
yeah. So you've hit the nail on the head there completely. Played both of played Ground Branch a bit. I've also had the opportunity of playing 5v5 PvP on it because Hacks is quite a large community and we all bought it and we played it quite a lot. But it is more focused and more geared to PvE. It is what you would call a Milsim paradise.
Yeah, yeah,
You
okay.
know, the gun attachments are never ending. The gun attachments are as in depth
Because you can
as
do some
Tarkov
crazy
is.
stuff on that, can't
Yeah,
you? Yeah,
massively. Well, you know what Tarkov's like. You put
yeah.
a rail on this, you put a laser sight on the side, you put
Hmm.
on top, and it's
Hmm.
massively involved. You can go in there and you can kit yourself out all ready for war. To take out these terrorists with your buddies. Shoulder tap all the way. Killing everybody. It's absolutely fantastic for what it wants to be. Like Ground Branch does, but it will lack the PvP side because it doesn't have the player base to it, and I know they're geared more towards the co-op side of it.
Yeah,
Now, if we go back to further in the conversation where you asked me whether they should be concentrating on PvE or PvE or PvP, in 0 hour, if you take Ground Branch into consideration, that is probably your only competition at the moment, and they're focusing on PvE. Why don't you just focus
yeah.
on the PvP side?
Jump on
Because
one side.
well, that's the reason why I bought 0 hour, mate.
Yeah.
Like I bought 0 hour first and decided against that because I kid you not, I had three games I was looking at. I had Ground Branch, I had Ready or Not, and I had 0 hour. Okay, all tactical shooters. Okay, that are currently in development now at the moment. Okay, 0 hour won it over for me because of the PvP side and the pricing of it. Because Ground Branch was like triple the price. I think it was like
I think it's
22
still like,
pounds or
I was
something
going to
like
say,
that.
it's still like 30 quid now, I think, or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Ready or Not, I haven't tried it, but that looks like the spiritual successor to Swap 4, which will be
Hmm.
something which I'll definitely be checking out and I'm keeping my eye on. But 0 hour just did everything right, man. And for somebody who wanted to be competitive and play PvP, it's there. So yes, if you like PVE, go and play Ground Branch. If you want to customize guns till tomorrow morning, go and play Ground Branch. But you won't be able to find people to play with against PvP on Ground Branch, which is why if you want to play PvP, you play 0 hour. But
Yeah.
then saying that, 0 hour still has a big co-op community as well. So you're better off buying this game, which is a hell of a lot cheaper, and you can try both elements as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I mean, that's only because that's the thought process that I was going through when I was looking between the two. And like I said, it wasn't until I joined your stream and sort of saw what 0 hour was all about. And I'd recommend to anyone that's actually watching this video to, whether it's Jambo's stream that you check out, which obviously I'd highly recommend. But if you're unsure as to if 0 hour is for you, what it's about, there is nothing better than watching a Twitch stream because for one, 9 times out of 10, the people that are playing are experienced players. You can normally tell in their tags how many hours they've got. Secondly, you can get answers on anything instantly with Twitch. You don't have to rely on a YouTube comment to be answered or not answered at all. And a lot of these guys are really, really friendly and they will help you with anything 9 times out of 10 because ultimately, the 0 hour community it's not the biggest at the end of the day, and they can't afford to, have a negative atmosphere to new people coming in, because these are the people that we need, the foundations that we need to grow this community. So I'd highly recommend to anyone, I'm sure Jambo you'll say exactly the same, jump on over to Twitch, watch videos like this, because I don't think there's a single person out there that you can ask a question that's streaming this game that will, one, not want to help you, or two, be negative towards you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I fully agree.
Well, to round it off, man, I'm not entirely sure if you've got anything else that you want to cover. I kind of want to throw it over to you at this point, because I'm kind of done as far as the criteria goes. But is there anything else that you want to address that you don't feel like we've covered today?
Um, no, I mean, I just want to reiterate that obviously the zero hour community is like no other, man. I love this community. It's fantastic. I'm surrounded by a lot of people who genuinely want to support one another. I've made a lot of friends through the community, playing this game, and a lot of people who I'm going to basically probably be friends with till I see my gaming days out, which probably won't be too long because I am 36 years old. But no, with all jokes aside, like I've met some fantastic people here. Obviously we have our own Hacks Discord, which obviously anybody watching this is welcome to join as well, because we're always playing. But not to mention that as well, the 0 hour Discord is always busy. There's always people playing co-op. There's always people looking for groups. Playing PvP as well. As well. But what I do want to do is I want to give a shout out to a lot of the technical support guys and actually the community moderators that work their complete arse off for it, because they're not actually part of the development team, okay, and nor do they get paid. But they're in there day in, day out answering questions for new players that go in there saying, I've got this problem with the game, or how do you do this? How do you do that? And they don't get a lot of love as well. So they're always out there. And they're just players just like you and me. You'll see them in the games, and some of them will hand your ass to you. I can guarantee you that, because some of them are extremely skilled at the game. So,
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to them guys that they really do a lot as well. And, I'm just overwhelmed with the support which everything's been sort of like happening recently. I've only just started streaming since playing 0 hour, man, and just to put it in perspective, I said to you before, man, I made affiliate within 5 days because of 0 hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that was off the back of playing in the tournament and having people wanting to watch people play in the tournaments and stuff like that, and I amassed a following
Which
there.
can take people years, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know.
I mean, again, that's not me sort of being
No,
headed
not at all. I
about
don't
it,
think
because
so.
I'm a very, very humble bloke. But it just shows like how supportive this community is. You literally go in there with your mentality of being, I want to learn, I want to play, I want to have fun. You'll be accepted by anybody here. Yes, there are a few people that cause issues or whatever like that, but they've got a massive issue with toxicity. So if you ever get anyone that's toxic in your games, grab the Steam profile, screenshot what was said and send it to one of the community moderators. That person will get banned, guarantee you, because they will not put
And
up with that.
it is like viciously shut down as well. They
Yeah,
are
yeah,
on top of it. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it is good. And for the limited time, to be fair, that I've spent in this game, and I figured, a new player, which I was coming into this game, I sort of figured, the people that I'm going to be coming across, are they going to be toxic to me? Because I don't really know what I'm doing. But honestly, 9 times out of 10, you will get people that will say, "Oh, buddy, by the way, if you go here, the power's here. If you go here, you can raise the shutters. If you go here, there's an angle here." And people 9 times out of 10 want to help you because it benefits them. If you're
yeah.
doing well, there's no good shouting at someone. Like if a dog does something wrong and you beat it, it's only going to sort of cower
hmm
away and sort of think, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming back here." And it's the same with new players. So no, I really am impressed as a new
I mean,
player
what
coming
what
in.
what I will say, sorry to cut you off, just
No,
what I
you're
will
good.
say is what you've got to remember: the reason why the community is so the game is so cheap. Okay, people can afford to pick it up. These toxic idiots that come into games can afford to pick it up and then not play it again or
Yeah, yeah,
refund it or whatever like that. Whereas if you spend 40, 50 quid on Rainbow Six or Battlefield or whatever like that, you need to feel like you need to continue playing that game,
of
and then you
course.
continue being toxic within the community. So all those toxic people that bought 0 hour, who suddenly have just decided, I don't want to play this anymore, they've left. So the
Yeah,
people who are actually passionate about the game are still here playing this game today,
yeah.
which is why you get such a good response from the community as a whole. So yeah, I say, man, I say this in my streams all the time. I say it to anybody who ever asks me. The game 100% is legit. It's cheap as chips, shall we say? We say in Britain as well. For the price of a couple of cups of coffee that you would have to miss out on for a week, and a slice of cake or whatever like that, you can have a game that will basically give you 800 hours if you want to not go outside and touch grass like me, shall we say? And you'll make some good friends, and you'll be part of a decent community. So yeah.
I think that's a good statement to close out on, man. I couldn't agree more. So what I will say is, for anyone that has watched this video, please, please, please go over and check out Jambo's stream when he is live. Typically, like I said before, he's normally streaming 3-4 times a week, and it is normally for around 4 or 5 hours. There's a good chance you'll see him. Drop him a follow. If you've got any questions, tips, advice you need, he is the man for it. Also, don't forget to subscribe here for brand new content just like this and 0 hour content specifically. Leave a like on the video to help both me and 0 hour grow, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.